On today's DNVR Broncos podcast, we're breaking down where things stand between JK Dobbins and the Broncos. Can Denver still sign him? Should the Broncos sign him? We are joined by our guy, Brian Baldinger, and it all starts now. Were the Broncos JKing about signing Dobbins, or will JK Dobbins be a Denver Bronco? We are breaking it down on the DNVR Broncos podcast, live from the Toyota Lounge, driven by your local Front Range Toyota stores. And we are the DNVR Broncos podcast with Ryan Koenigsberg, Henry Chisholm. We've got you here behind the camera, and Zac Stevens rocking and rolling with you today. You like that entrance?
Yeah, that was good. I didn't think you were gonna, I had that one in the bag.
Wow.
I had that one queued up. I didn't think you would take that from me. But recognized game, you know?
Henry, you probably hated it.
Yeah, it wasn't my favorite.
Yeah.
I heard, I was like, okay. I guess.
How was our weekend, fellas? Cool weekend at the bar.
Yeah. My weekend was too good, some would say.
Yeah.
Still feeling it. Got a Gatorade here.
Yeah.
You know, all I ask is that I can't be held accountable for anything I say or do today.
Wow. And that just goes to today?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just gotta, get a couple brain cells back, and then I'll be back, to a adult who has responsibilities and things of that nature.
That's fair. So, Henry, now knowing what Ryan just said about his current state, is it too early for the Gatorade, or is it acceptable? Because before the show, Ryan was drinking the Gatorade, and Henry was like, "Oh, wow, this is pretty early for a Gatorade."
There's no time too early.
Yeah, there's no time too early.
Which I thought was strange. Because to me, like, Gatorade isn't like a morning drink. Like, you wake up, if you want to have coffee in the morning, or orange juice in the morning, or I guess most juices fit in that. A smoothie is a great morning drink. But I don't think Gatorade in the morning. But it is 11 now, so maybe that's fine. And I guess if you're using it for like a purpose, like you're using it as a tool instead of just as something to drink, that's a little different.
You never woke up just like really thirsty and just been like, oh, I just need a slug of a Gatorade. Like, you're probably not gonna like drink the whole thing first thing in the morning, but like I'll go to the fridge and just have a sip.
Huh. No, I've never done that. But I'm gonna, next time I wake up thirsty, I'm gonna think Gatorade and see if I'm tempted.
Have you ever heard of people drinking Pedialyte after a night out?
Yeah, I've heard of that. I remember when I first heard of it thinking that's the dumbest, like that's for kids. I haven't had the Pedialyte. I have had the Gatorlyte.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's the same thing. It took like 2 sips. Awful.
Wow.
It's so like
too
thick
salty
and,
for you. Huh?
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
I like it.
You like it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't think people really drank it for the taste.
I don't know, man. It's just hit, it's like your body's craving it. So then when you give it that,
That's true.
Okay.
I think you just have like a positive association in your brain.
Yeah, that's very true.
Interesting.
Henry, how are you doing this weekend? After
It was
this
good.
weekend?
I went to all 3 Rockies games.
Oh my
They
goodness.
lost 25-8, and all of them combined. Should be clear, they are the Rockies.
So is that 8 to 25 to 28 to 5? 25 to 8.
25-8.
That's 8 to 3 on average.
And that's helping the Rockies out a bit. Yeah, I mean, it's always fun to go see the Rockies. I went with some friends on Friday. I went
Only
alone.
says you.
I was just like bored Saturday, so I was like, might as well go watch the Rockies game. I did leave after like I guess bottom half of the 8th. I was like, I'm not watching any more of this. Then yesterday, DNVR, we had the suite. So I was like, how could I pass up this opportunity? So
That
I watched,
did look cool.
Yeah, they got crushed.
How
It was
many
a tough
more
weekend.
games until they're on an 8-game losing streak? So that they can win again?
I believe this is only 3.
Yeah, because they swept the Marlins right
Yep,
before.
and that was
had a day
Wednesday,
off.
Thursday off, and then
Yeah.
3.
Okay.
So
5 more.
yeah, and they're at home for the next few games. So who knows? Maybe they can break it early. I doubt it.
Yeah, we doubt it. And the Broncos much better than the Rockies are. And the Broncos are entering their final week of the off-season workout program. Mandatory minicamp. It's the only part of the off-season program that's mandatory. Up until this time, there's no fines. There's no ill will, at least publicly, for players not making it. Last week, John Franklin Myers officially missed another week, and Sean Payton was asked about it. He said, nope, I've been talking with John. Everything's good, all good. It's voluntary, so he doesn't need to be here. This week, that all changes. If a player misses this week, you get fined $101,000. I believe it's like $34,000 per day that you miss. So all eyes will be on attendance, and it starts tomorrow. Then it goes Wednesday and Thursday as well. Sean might cancel Thursday for him. We'll find out about that. But that means the rest of this week, well, I guess Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, any day they have practice, we will be going live after practice, right around 2 p.m., just after 2 p.m., to break down what you need to know from practice. But before they do that, they have media day today, which means they're like taking all their photos and stuff, You remember the most famous clip that came out of Media Day?
It's Monday. We don't need this. We don't need to talk about this in our lives.
I do remember that.
I'm not in a place.
What would it have been? 3 years ago?
Yeah.
I think. A very viral video of Russell Wilson came out. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you.
If you just want to leave it at that right there. So Broncos are doing that today. Then they're on the field tomorrow. So stay tuned for that.
Should we do same rules for the three of us? Like, if anyone misses Tuesday or Wednesday, 101 G's.
Okay.
That would take
Fine with me.
Yeah, Ryan, you might be the only one in the most trouble for that.
Yeah, it is risky for me. But remember, I can't be held accountable for anything that I said today.
Wow.
That's also true.
We got to bring this up to him tomorrow. Get him on the books for it for Wednesday and Thursday at least. Okay. Yep. Yeah, I like it. I like it. Unless there could be an excused absence for a sickness.
That's true.
Yeah. There could actually, you could probably make a lot of excused absences up for this. So before we get into that, guys, will JK Dobbins be a Bronco for mandatory minicamp? Last week, he visited the Broncos facility. He had dinner with, I believe, the position coach on Wednesday night. Then he was in the building on Thursday to visit with the Broncos officially. He left Thursday night without a contract, and then it's been Friday, Saturday, Sunday, where he just still remains a free agent. Henry, where do things stand right now with the Broncos and JK Dobbins?
I mean, JK gets to go away as options. I mean, the thing is, he can just sign with the Chargers for $3.4 million whenever he wants. So he's just sitting around waiting for somebody to make a better offer than that. And maybe the Broncos are willing to make that offer. Maybe they said, like, yeah, we'll give you like a little bit less, but there's less taxes in Colorado and you actually get to play here. But I mean, my best guess would just be the numbers didn't match up between the two sides. And so there's really no, maybe they'll call back in a couple months if they still feel like they need him. But I guess at that point, he's probably going to training camp with the Chargers.
So really quick, I think, and maybe Henry, you can look this up, because I thought it was a 1 year, $3.5 million deal for JK if he goes back to the Chargers. And doing more research into it today, I actually think that's for the other player that got this same very random and not used tag put on him, and that is Elijah Moore. I think JK only is at $1.1 million if he signs back with the Chargers.
So there's one of those like Sports Illustrated, it's the Bears Sports Illustrated page. They wrote that. And
ESPN has also wrote that.
They wrote that as well. Interesting. But again, it says like, even that Bears one says because Dobbins would get $3.43 million by playing out the season with the Chargers, he wouldn't want to pursue a contract for less. So I'm not sure where the disconnect is, but we could double check.
I think the disconnect is Elijah Moore is at $3.5 million, and he's the other person that got it. So I think some wires might have got crossed. I'm not 100% sure, because initially I did see the $3.5 million. And again, I've never seen this tender used, so I don't really know about this, and I've been covering the Broncos for 10 years now, and the Broncos have never used it. It's only been used a couple of times. But it is interesting. Maybe the Broncos and JK don't know what it is. I'm sure they actually do know what it is right now. But that is a fascinating thing. And then also one other thing to kind of debunk, I think, Henry, you can fact check me on this as well, is it was initially put out that the Broncos would have to give up a draft pick in order to sign JK, and because of this weird tender put on him. And I actually don't think that's the case. I think what the case is by putting this tender on him, if he were to sign somewhere else, the Chargers would get a compensatory pick back from him. But remember, compensatory picks aren't paid by the team that signs them. Compensatory picks are just new picks that are made up by the NFL given to the Chargers. So I believe the Chargers would get a compensatory pick, at least a 7th rounder, if the Broncos or any team were to sign JK. So that wouldn't be the Broncos giving up a pick.
Whose job is it to know this?
In the Broncos building?
In the world.
It's a great.
There's somebody in the league office.
Like we should be able to call that guy.
I know.
Or gal.
It would be useful.
And be like, can you explain this to us?
I know.
And like, maybe not us, like, I don't know, Ian Rappaport or Adam Schefter. Like, someone should be able to call someone and find out what's going on here.
Yeah, very much so.
So the tough one with the compensatory picks is we don't know exactly how they fit in right now. It looks like the Broncos currently would get a 7th round compensatory pick for next year if they don't get Dobbins. But Dobbins, because he counts as part of the formula, I think if they give him $2.5 million, then they almost certainly lose that 7th round pick. If they give him less than $2 million, then maybe they don't. But it's tough to say for sure. But that is the other piece, is that he would count for the formula, and it does look like losing Riley Dixon on top of like all the other moves. Riley Dixon's kind of like the kicker, where it's like, okay, now you actually
punter.
He's the punter, where you now say like, oh, actually they lost more than they got, and it should be a 7th rounder, assuming they don't get Dobbins, and then depending on Dobbins' deal.
So in a roundabout way, it might end up costing them a 7th round pick, but it's not them actually giving a 7th round pick to the Chargers. And maybe this plays in this mess of a situation that the Chargers did. And really quick, let's just look at this from the Chargers' perspective. So there's one caveat with the Chargers putting this tender on him. It's called like the unrestricted free agent tender. And it's because he was a free agent for so long that the Chargers were able to place this on him. And it guarantees that if July 22nd comes around, technically the start of training camp in the NFL, if July 22nd comes around, the Chargers owe him a contract of 1 year at 110% of what his contract was last year. His contract was $1 million last year, so he'd be guaranteed $1.1 million with the Chargers if he doesn't have a contract by July 22nd. But the weird thing with the Chargers, why did they place this on JK Dobbins? They went out and paid Najee Harris $5 million guaranteed, I think upwards of $10 million in incentives. And then they used their 1st round pick on a guy that we had talked about a lot on this show, Omarion Hampton. And now they're willing to bring JK back. I guess this just shows
so cheap.
It's true. Yeah. And I guess it just shows what Harbaugh's going to do. He doesn't trust Justin Herbert one bit. He wants to run the ball and run the ball and run the ball.
Yeah, and I think at that price, that's good depth. It's good depth to have. Even if he's your 3rd string running back, it's still worth it at that price, because inevitably someone's going to get hurt or be banged up in a game where you need to go to your 3rd running back, and JK Dobbins would be a lot better than most people's 3rd running back, if not everyone's.
Yep. Yeah.
Very true. Very, very good point. And so I wonder what's holding this up for the Broncos. And there's a couple of things that we can dive into, and let's dive into that after I give a shout out to our friends over at, pulling it up right now. Here we go. It's our friends over at First Bank, where whether you're on the road, at home, or somewhere in between, First Bank makes banking easy, convenient, and secure. Their mobile banking app allows you to check balances, pay friends, and manage your money anytime, anywhere. And here's the best part. Open a new First Bank checking account today, and you could earn $300. First Bank is all about helping you stay on track. Their tools make it simple to stay in control of your finances without the hassle. No matter where life takes you, First Bank gives you the freedom to bank how and when works best for you. So if you're ready for a better banking experience and the chance to earn a little extra, head to efirstbank.com/bonus. That's efirstbank.com/bonus to open your account. Bank how you want, when you want, with First Bank. Certain restrictions and requirements apply. Member FDIC. And one more time, that's efirstbank.com/bonus to open your account.
And Coors Light. I had it, let's see. Friday night was Coors Lights. And then yesterday afternoon, I also had a couple. It was very nice in the suite because they just have a refrigerator and it's filled with all sorts of different stuff. And so you can just grab cans or whatever. And they say don't take the cans out on the balcony. But personally, I prefer to drink beer out of cans. I think they're scared of like people throwing it.
Oh, yeah.
Like Rockies fans get that worked up about anything. Yeah. They were some good Coors Lights. I'm trying to think. Do I have any Coors Lights events coming up in the near future? I don't think I.
Well, you going to a Rockies game this week? I mean, you've been to 3 straight. Might as well make it 4.
I mean, I'm going to ask Lexi if she wants to go tomorrow, but I have a feeling the answer is going to be no.
I think I would be on the conservative side if I say the group of people I was with this weekend went through 400 Coors Lights.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's 24 of us, and we were there for 3 days.
Yep.
But I think that's a fair estimate.
Yep.
Yeah.
20 a man
That's not bad.
over 3 days. That happened for sure.
Yeah.
You can do it.
Yeah.
We had because I was also in Estes, a little outside of Estes, and we did the Coors Light. Oh, these ones with the screw off top, the best. It's the best way
Silver
to have
bullet.
a beer on the go.
Yeah. I like the there's something about just like clicking the thing and drinking it. Coors Light though. If you guys want Coors Lights, they're the best. The mountains turn blue. You know all that stuff. Cold lagered, cold filtered, cold packaged. You can make the most out of the times you choose to chill by choosing Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door. Visit CoorsLight.com/DNVR. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Beer. I wonder where that beer comes from. Like, something makes me think Rudo just wrote that at the end of that one day. And everybody's just insane.
I like that. I also like the Toyota chat. Shout out to everyone who's tuning in with us on this Monday morning. Hit us with a thumbs up if you're tuning in with us. Say hello if you're in the comments. We really appreciate every single one of you who's rocking and rolling with us today. And so, guys, from my understanding, the visit with JK Dobbins was good. No one, I shouldn't say no one. The people that I talked to in the building weren't surprised that he left without a contract because if you look, this has kind of been protocol for how the Broncos operate. When they bring a guy in, at least in the past year, they don't necessarily sign him right away. So it doesn't mean that they're not going to sign him. I don't believe that they are trying to sign him by the end of today. I don't think they feel a need to sign him because look, free agency's been open for 3 months now. And he's still unsigned. They don't feel like there's a big rush to sign him. But there still is interest from the Broncos side. Where I think this comes down to is, I think this is the exact situation that Evan Ingram had when he came to Denver. Remember, he visited, had dinner with the Broncos brass on Sunday night before free agency started. Monday, he visited with the team in the building. And then he left. Well, he told Benny Fowler on this show, he didn't want to leave. He wanted to sign with the Broncos, but they didn't give him what he wanted in a contract. So he said, fine, not only am I not going to sign, I'm going to go visit your rival team, the Chargers. And that was enough for him to get what he wanted from the Broncos, get a good contract. So I think that's what's happening from JK's side is he said, I'm also not in a rush to sign right now. I'm guaranteed $1.1 million from the Chargers if I wait 6 more weeks. And the Broncos don't really have an incentive to pay him that much more than that. Like, why would they feel like the need to pay him $2.2 million when they know in 6 weeks he's only going to get $1.1 million from the Chargers? So I think the Broncos are the ones with just all the power here, unless some other team swoops in and is willing to pay more. I think that's where things stand right now.
And is there not anyone else that's really been in the mix yet?
I don't think so. I don't think he's taken a visit to any team.
And then that really does put the Broncos in the driver's seat here. The leverage that JK has is, well, you can have me or your rival can have me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's got to help a little bit. And if I were his representation, I would say, and you need him more than they need him.
Yep. Which, is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of leverage there, but it shouldn't come out to more than a couple $100,000 difference no matter what. And that's why to me, I'm just like, what are we waiting for here? 1.2, 1.5, this much guaranteed, that much guaranteed. This is pocket change in the NFL. And the Broncos need an experienced running back. if for no other reason than they just don't have someone in the room to be the veteran. Mm-hmm. Like who's telling RJ Harvey like how to go about his business?
Jaleel, who's in a very different spot than RJ Harvey. Jaleel's a guy that's in the facility at 5 a.m. every day. RJ Harvey, it wouldn't be bad if you did that, but an undrafted guy who's grinding his way. RJ Harvey, the complete opposite, second-round pick.
Yeah.
He's guaranteed a roster spot this year and for years moving forward.
But there's just, and it's not like he can't go to another teammate or whatever. It's just something you kind of want to have when you're putting your room together is, one, a talented player that JK Dobbins is, but even Audric Estime still probably needs some veteran leadership in his life. So this one to me feels like it should get done. There definitely isn't a rush, but I would just like to have it, done and dusted. Yeah.
I will say when they decided not to sign another running back after the draft, I kind of started to like what they were doing. I kind of like the group that they have. And I know JK Dobbins, those first 2 weeks last year was really, really good. Rest of the season, he was not that good at all. And I think that to me, I see why the Broncos wouldn't want to do it because, again, like leading rusher in the NFL through the first 2 weeks of last season. He beat up on the Raiders. He beat up on the Panthers. The rest of the season, he averaged 3.8 yards per carry. Like he basically was doing Javonte stuff. His 3 longest runs of the year were those first 2 weeks. I'm not a
Did
huge.
He get a little banged up?
He's always banged up, I'm sure.
But
yeah,
he did
still
get
have
injured.
that ceiling though.
Yeah. I'm not sure he does. There's a part of me that thinks like that was kind of the juice he had left, and maybe the Broncos think they can unlock him and make him play like that all year. But when the guy's been hurt over and over again, the kind of juiceless version of JK Dobbins we saw in 11 of the games, 12 I guess if you count the playoff game versus the 2 we saw at the beginning of the year. Like maybe it's just fluky that those were the 2 games where he went big and they happened to be the first 2 weeks. But I don't know. I don't look at him and say he's going to be significantly better than what you have, most likely.
What's the downside?
I mean, the downside is just the touches that you take away from the other guys. Like I think right now, if we were sitting here saying like Audric Estime had 100 touches last year, Tyler Bidet had 100 touches last year, we could know more about what they have. And I think that if you bring JK in, you lose that aspect. Then all of a sudden you go into next year saying like, hey, maybe you get 4.2 out of him when you would have got 4 flat out of Audric. And you get that little upgrade, but then you go into next year saying like, okay, well, we don't really need Dobbins back, but we also don't know what we have. I guess the other piece is just that once you make your move at running back, you make your move. It's tough to imagine them signing Dobbins and then making another move later. But when you see like James Cook is not showing up, it looks like there's going to be a holdout. I'd be willing to like sit around through training camp and see if that really blows up and make a move there, or like week 3, week 4, Breece Hall,
This
Kenneth
doesn't
Walker.
preclude that at all though because it's
You
so
don't think
cheap.
so?
I also, Sean Payton kept telling us before free agency opened, after free agency was open and the Broncos didn't make any moves, after the Broncos drafted RJ Harvey, he kept telling us, I want to see what we have with these young guys in our room right now. And he kept saying that, and he kept saying that. And to be honest, I didn't believe him. And a little bit of that went away when the Broncos used a second-round pick on a running back. But still, I thought they were going to make other moves to add a J.K. Dobbins. In fact, that's a guy I was pounding the table for a long time because of the high upside, low risk. And then where I think he totally lost me is he goes out, sees this running back room and this team for 1.5 weeks in OTAs on the field, and they're immediately bringing in J.K. Dobbins. And to me, that speaks volumes to set. He wanted to see this group. Yeah. And then what do? 10 days in to actual real practices, they bring in a veteran to see if they could sign him potentially. And to me, we know where RJ Harvey stands. To me, he's a starter week 1 without any questions. That just speaks to the depth behind him, in my opinion. Maybe I'm reading into it too much, but I don't think so. Also, from what I'm hearing, it's not a good look for the rest of that room behind RJ.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And as the former president of the Audric Estime,
already
of the Audric Estime Believers Club, I've stepped down from my post.
Wow.
Because I get the same feelings that you get. I get the same feelings that you get, that they didn't love what they saw from the young guys in that room during minicamp, and that's why, or during OTAs, and that's why they're kind of in the market right now. And I'm guessing that JK Dobbins is probably there, like, okay, this is, for lack of a better term, the emergency cord that we can pull if we need to.
I just don't know how you could be so unimpressed in 6 unpadded practices with running backs, you know? Like, it'd be one thing if it was like the backup quarterback, like that sort of stuff. I don't know.
So
I think it's some about the practices themselves, but I think that's just general maturity, development. You know, what kind of shape did you come in at? Those types of things.
Okay. I love Audric Estime as a person. I'm just taking things that we've seen happen in public. Remember, Sean Payton told the story last year, and we were there, but we were able to say this once he actually told the story. He put a picture in Audric Estime's locker. On one side, it was Barry Sanders with an X through it. On the other side, it was Jerome Bettis with the circle through it. And saying, you are Jerome Bettis. Don't try to jump over people and run around people, run through people. And I don't know if that message hit Audric last year. And so I think there was maybe a hope that maybe it hit him in this offseason. He would come back. And they have been in meetings besides before these couple of weeks of practice. And my guess is it maybe didn't click. Remember also the last time we saw Audric Estime on a game field, guys, he was wearing sweatpants. He was a healthy scratch. And that was technically week 18 of his rookie season. The Broncos made him a healthy scratch in the playoff game against the Bills. What do they say? Come like week 12, you're not viewed as a rookie anymore in your rookie season. So in week 18, he wasn't getting a jersey in what was arguably, an easy argument, the worst running back room in the NFL last year. It's just not a good sign. And Jaleel, we might kind of know who he is, and he's a good football player. I think he's going to make this team this year. Tyler Bidet, he averaged, 7 yards per carry last year, but only had a couple of carries because then he got injured. So a lot of unknowns here. And I don't think this is a good sign for the rest of that room right there, specifically that running back too. And I think the JK Dobbins, man, I'm with you, Ryan. The upside, the risk to reward, he's not going to play 17 games in a season. No, but Henry, if he can go out and get 133 yards in 2 different games this year and be that fireball,
that'd be incredible.
It would be incredible. And you're right, though. You're not counting on that every single game. I just think, man, I think it would be perfect. Not only the play on the field, but that veteran mentorship that he would bring.
Yeah. Again, I just don't think he's that player anymore. Like, I think that when you go back and look
Is there another player out there that you would prefer?
I would wait for trades. I mean, I think I would be more interested. If you're going to make this move, go get somebody who's going to be good. Like, if this is the move,
but
Javonte would have been able to provide you basically the same thing, I think, with probably better pass protection. I think, like, there's like you could go get a Cam Akers who, again, also hurt, doesn't get me all fired up. But I would be disappointed if the move is just JK Dobbins and he doesn't pan out. Because again, there's a chance that like something fluky happened, and that's why in those last 12 games last year, he just didn't have any juice. But I'm so sick of seeing these retreads come in and they just don't produce anything.
I think that's fair. I'll just go back to, I don't think if a trade presented itself in August, you would say, we got JK Dobbins at $1.2 million. We can't make this move.
I also don't think that the Broncos, I think RJ Harvey is clearly their number one plan. And they hope RJ Harvey is James Cook for them, is Breece Hall for them. Guys that Breece Hall was a 2nd-round pick, I believe, as well. And so it's looking for that number 2 guy. And so I just don't think that they're actually looking for that home run hitter. But let's ask our friend Brian Baldinger after I give a shout out to our friends over at Raisin Canes. I did a little road trip this week up to Estes Park. The most disappointing thing was no Raisin Canes off the side of the road, because that would have been my stop for my road trips. And if you are taking a road trip this year, you're going to need to load up on delicious food. And there's no better place than Raisin Canes. If you're heading out on your road trip, make sure to find the closest Raisin Canes near you. And you can order in your car, on your phone when you are heading to Raising Cane's on their mobile app, or you can go to raisingcanes.com to satisfy your chicken finger fix in a snap. Everyone's going to love Raising Cane's in your car on your family trip because they've got everything you want. The chicken fingers, the crinkle cut fries, the sandwiches, the coleslaw, that's my favorite. And of course, anything you get the cane sauce on it. It's going to make it a perfect meal. If you want, you can put it all together, make a sandwich for yourself, and you can do that on their app or going to raisingcanes.com where you can get your order ahead of time and keep your road trip going. Raising Cane's chicken fingers, one love.
Also, shout out to our friends over at Empire Today. They put this lovely floor here in our studio, and they're the floor people. There's a lot of people for a lot of different things. You need a floor, to go to Empire Today. That's just not really up for debate. And you could go to the big box store and find some guy in a corner who's mixing paint 1 second and cutting wood another second and, whatever else. And props to that guy because he does a lot of things.
Yep.
And he's probably good at them, but not as good as Empire Today is.
Not an expert.
You got to go to them. Go to the experts. Go to the people who are about one thing and one thing only, and that's your floor. And then you can be confident that you're going to get the best floor possible. And you can be 100% sure that you're going to get $350 off when you use the code DNVR. Go to empiretoday.com/DNVR to unlock your $350 discount on your new floor.
And again, shout out to everyone tuning in with us on the show. In the Twitter chat, we got a lot of regulars like Jose, Gen X. We got some new people. Drew, I'm seeing in here. Ashton's been rocking and rolling with us. Steven, want to give a shout out to everyone who's tuning in with us, including our guy Brian Baldinger in just a second.
And one more thing, as we just talked about Raising Cane's, huge shout out to Raising Cane's. They helped put on our event last night with Fresh Tape Media. The unveiling of the finale episode of the Gabriel Landeskog series, A Clean Sheet, about his recovery from an injury that a lot of people thought he would never be able to recover from. Episode is fantastic. Got to check that out. And Raising Cane's helped us put on an awesome event here at the bar.
Rumor is Raising Cane's helped Landy too. That's the rumor. That was the secret sauce.
Wow, literally.
Yeah, literally.
Their secret sauce was his secret sauce.
That's what did it.
That's impressive.
It's crazy.
Really quick, you hear, do we have Baldy? Okay, perfect. Last night, such a cool event here. I'm bummed I was still in the mountains, but we turned DNVR into into the Oscars.
Yeah,
couldn't believe how dressed up everyone was.
Yeah, it was a classy event.
It was.
Yeah,
it was a classy event. I don't know if I should have been invited, but it was awesome. Gabe is one of the most talented people I've ever seen at talking to people. Just the way that he can hold court with anyone and everyone and just make them feel like he's interested in what they have to say and all of that. I mean, I'm sure it's part of the qualities that make him such a great leader of a hockey team. But just watching this dude go around, who, by the way, he had a baby he didn't personally have. His wife had a baby 72 hours before this event, so he hadn't been sleeping at all, and just an incredible human. I couldn't believe it. I was just in awe watching him talk to all these people.
I mean, one of the qualities, probably a massive quality that allowed him to be captain, before he was 20?
Yeah. Well, and that's why
insane.
Our guy, Eric, drafted him and decided that he should be the captain when he was 18.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is kind of crazy that then
else.
Landy comes and Eric is the guy on the podcast.
Yeah.
It is.
That's so true.
Full circle.
That really is.
Love circles.
And we have, our Avs guys have a massive interview dropping with him, I believe at 5 p.m. today. So if you're an Avs fan, make sure to stay tuned for that. That is definitely a can't miss segment there. As we wait for Baldy, and you hear, let me know when he calls in, because sometimes we can't hear the ring. Want to just continue to talk about this right now, because to me, I think this shows the Broncos are already pressing the panic button, bringing in JK Dobbins, whether it's, and I should say pressing the panic button when it comes to their backup running back. So how important is that position? Not a crazy important one, but as a guy, we know Sean Payton likes two running back systems. Even when he has all-time great running backs, like Alvin Kamara is one of those guys, been to a Pro Bowl all 5 years of his career when he was with Sean Payton. He still had a second running back that was getting a big workload. We heard him last year say he can't get 3 running backs on the field because he really can only get 2 backs on the field. So we know there's going to be a 2-back system here. And Henry, I know you have some guys pulled up here, but let's say it's not JK Dobbins. I'm still under the belief that they're going to bring in a running back, and I'll get your opinion on that after we talk to our guy, Brian Baldinger, because we are joined by the legend himself. Baldy, what's going on?
Morning, guys. Or good afternoon, I guess, wherever you might be. But, beautiful day here in South Florida, and I know you guys are getting ready for your mini camp this week, so I'm anxious to hear what happens.
Yeah, we are as well, Baldy, and we're anxious to see if JK Dobbins will be wearing orange and blue at some point, whether it's this week, whether it's training camp or the season. Does it make sense for the Broncos to bring in JK Dobbins and add him to this team?
He had a good year last year. He did get hurt, didn't finish it, but he did have a good season. He's had a lot of injuries. Contract-wise, you got to factor in injury provisions if he's going to, come on board, because I don't know that he's ever played a full season. I'd have to go look that up, but he had a good season for the Chargers last year. So there was a performance last year they hadn't shown in a while, and when he was healthy, he was very good. So does it make sense? I don't know. I feel like sometimes when you do something like that, they become a rep stealer from a guy like R.J. Harvey. Like, honestly, if you drafted this guy where you drafted him, let him, that's where J.K. was drafted too. He was a second-round pick. Do you want to take reps away from a guy that you spent a high pick on like that? I'm not sure that that's what I would do at this point.
How many reps would you want R.J. Harvey to get in a rookie season like this, and what's the right number to give to someone else, that's in that room?
I feel like, you got to let these guys, you got to let these guys run it, so 200 would be a minimum, I would think. That's a second-round pick now. That's where the sweet spot for running backs normally are. Now, I know this year was a little bit different, but for most years, Nick Chubb was a second-round pick, Derrick Henry was a second-round pick. That's usually the sweet spot for running backs is the second round. And so, the worst thing to do is all right, let's just say you sign JK. Let's say he's having a pretty good season, and then something happens. And now, RJ gets a majority of the carries and he plays great and he runs it great. You're like, man, we put in, we invested something in JK Dobbins, and RJ could have done that. That's what I mean by a rep stealer. Let this guy go. I kind of feel like let this go. I know there's a big buzz about it right now, but I don't know. This guy, the tape that RJ had the last 2 years, I'd like to see what he can do right now.
The part that scares me with Dobbins is that, so he had the incredible first 2 weeks last year where he's leading the NFL in rushing, but he put up 3.8 yards per carry from week 3 on last year. And I wonder a little bit, especially because of the injury history, if he just might be kind of burned out. And maybe the Broncos get him and have some strategy to keep him healthy, or see something that was happening those first 2 weeks that wasn't happening later. But I think that's the red flag to me, is that, what you want is the guy that you saw 14 games ago, not the guy that you kind of saw later on in the season.
Well, that's true. But, a guy like JK Dobbins, he's from a little small town in Texas. He goes to Columbus. He starts 3 straight years there. He starts day one. He's one of those guys that had a lot of carries in college, and sometimes that carries over to, you only have so many carries in you, so many good carries where you're breaking tackles, contact balance, all that kind of stuff. And you're going, does this a carryover from that? And you don't know, because everybody's different. Everybody sort of expires differently. Some guys can prolong it. He has missed a lot of time where, he wasn't getting his body pounded, but still it caught up to him last year. So, and that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to pound the ball last year with the Chargers. We kind of know what Harbaugh likes to do. And they went in a different direction from the guys that they had there last year. And part of it was I'm sure they got to see him up close, even though he had some good games early. Like they decided, no, this is not the guy we're going to bring back. Maybe there's something there that they saw that they didn't want to do it.
Baldy, on a different note, last week we got to watch one of the OTA practices, and my biggest takeaway from that, one of my biggest takeaways at least, was Evan Ingram, when they were doing individual drills, was exclusively working with the wide receivers, not the tight ends. And personally, I love to see that because Evan Ingram's in his 30s now. There's no messing around with what he is. He's a receiver for this team. Is that a good sign to see him just working with receivers? What do you make of that with Sean?
Well, I mean, he's a slot receiver. That's what he's been. Yeah, man. When he was drafted by the Giants, he wasn't a tight end. He was never a blocking tight end. At best, he was a second tight end opposite the formation of where they were going. For the most part, in Jacksonville, he was almost used exclusively as a slot receiver. When he put up 100 catches, he was like a slot receiver. So I think that's how they're going to use him. I think he's going to be. I mean, some teams, Denver isn't one of those, but some teams, they have their inside receivers, they have their outside receivers. My guess is that that's where you're going to see him. He's going to be an inside slot receiver. He'll be in motion to change strengths and things like that and to look for matchups. But that's when he's at his best, is when he is in the slot, and that's where he works his best, his best routes. That's where he works. I mean, and so I think that's probably where you're going to see him.
I want to go back to the running back room just for a second here. And I hear what you guys are both saying, Henry and Baldy, about JK Dobbins and kind of the risks involved there. My question is, with the young running back room that the Broncos would have, is there someone in that room that you trust to protect your franchise quarterback? And, it feels like it should be Audric Estime, but, is he in a place in his development where you could say, hey, we just need you to come in here and block for Bo?
Well, if you're going to be that guy, you also have to be a great receiver. So who's the best receiver? I mean, typically you want a combination because it's not enough just to stay in there, because if nobody comes and they don't blitz, then you need to get out. And you got to be that safety valve. So it's not enough just to be able to block. You got to be able to protect and receive and be a valuable, fourth option or fifth option, depending what the protection is. And so I don't know that we've seen enough from Audric Estime right now that he's that guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is interesting. I mean, that is the value of a guy like JK Dobbins too, is that he's a veteran. He knows what he's doing. I know Sean shouted out Tyler Bidet last week, just kind of out of nowhere, for being a guy who can pass protect. But again, like if that's your one guy that you're putting on the field, is that really who you want to give those touches to? I don't know. Baldy, what do you think of just the fact that JK would be a veteran? Like, does a running back room need to have somebody who's played a bunch of football, who, especially in Harbaugh offenses, I could see that there could be some value in that.
I think there's value. There's value to having, he's still young, but
True.
He'd be the most veteran guy of everybody there right now. There's value in that. But like I said, if he's stealing reps from RJ Harvey, is that the guy you want? If he can give you 200 good reps and be healthy for 14 games, nobody knows that. But if you said, okay, at the end of the year, would you sign off on this? You'd probably take, that type of production, 14 games, 200 carries, because you're going to get 450 carries in this offense for the most part. So how are you going to split it up? You might get a little bit more depending on, just ball control and things like that. But you're kind of banking on 450 carries of an offense. Every team is a little bit different. Baltimore is going to be more than that. But, for the most part, 450 is kind of the number out of 1,000, 1,100, snaps. And so, if you wanted to split up and go 200 and then RJ Harvey, get 150 and, Bidet and McLaughlin, maybe, or Estime, you're probably going to keep four backs just because they're so young right now. But somebody's going to be, if they sign JK, somebody's going to be the odd man out.
Yeah, and Baldy, speaking of free agents, there's two new free agents in the NFL as of today. Jermaine Pratt was released, as well as Jair Alexander. Some Broncos fans are saying that they should go after these guys. To me, neither really makes sense just with where the Broncos are at, inside linebacker and cornerback. Do you think that either one of those guys makes sense for the Broncos to go after?
No, because, they still drafted Drew Sanders last year. I know he was hurt. Singleton is back right now. Greenlaw is presumably healthy. Like the inside linebacker position in the corner, you just drafted a corner in the first round. They've got good depth at that position. It's not any. Those are two names I would not. Like Jermaine Pratt has been a very productive linebacker at Cincinnati. You look at his stats. He filled up the stat page while he was there. It kind of went downhill a little bit last year, so he's a declining player. And they drafted, a linebacker in the first round, or second round. But for the most part, I would say that neither one of those guys would fit with what I'm looking at right now in Denver. I mean, I think if you look at a corner right now, Riley Moss is certainly going to be the guy, and Barron. I mean, they've got their guys, I think, lined up there right now.
Yeah, I completely agree. And Baldy, we love having you on. Thanks for checking in with us a little earlier this week with mandatory minicamp here. We look forward to catching up and wrapping up mandatory minicamp with you next week. Have a great start of your week, Baldy.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. Thanks, guys. Talk to you real soon. Take care.
Man, love catching up to Baldy, and he doesn't really want JK in Denver, and I see what he's saying. I think that where I see it a little different than Baldy is I do think someone is going to take away from RJ Harvey's reps, just the way Sean Payton operates. I would personally love it. Give him 25 touches a game. But how many times have we said that with Sean? Like, man, this guy's hot. Feed him more. And he gets 3 carries the next week. So it's just going to be a 2-back system. Maybe Sean will change from what he's done for past 2 decades as a coach and really give RJ all these carries. And then I'll say, fine, yeah, Broncos didn't need a second running back. I would absolutely love to see that. I just don't think that's going to be the case.
Yeah, I'll just go back to my fear that I mentioned to Baldy. It's like a lot of times you get these rookie running backs and they're super talented and they have great vision and you love getting them touches. But do you trust them to protect your franchise quarterback? And I don't. Maybe RJ is great in that. And he can be a 3-down back and just do it all. But I also think that would put a lot of wear and tear on him. So it'd be nice to get him a breather and bring in someone who's kind of a pro at being a 3rd-down back and save him a little bit of wear and tear and make sure that you save Bo the wear and tear.
Yeah. There is value in that. Again, though, just everything except for that 4.6 yards per carry is just a little bit concerning. Like the 42.6% success rate. It's like, are you getting half the yards on first down? 75% on second down, the entire, obviously, yards to gain on 3rd and 4th, 42.6. And you look at the Broncos running backs, like last year, Jaleel 51, Javonte 47, Audric 51, Bidet 55, Blake Watson on his couple snaps 75. And just there's some of those things where you say, I don't think that this is still an explosive player, and without that, it's a dime a dozen. But maybe if it's a dime a dozen with pass protection skills, that's better than the couple guys the Broncos have who are kind of dime a dozen guys.
Right, exactly. A really interesting point that Terrell in the comment section made me think of. How good does RJ Harvey have to be the best running back the Broncos have had in 2 decades? Because the one that he pointed to in the Toyota chat was Phillip Lindsay and C.J. Anderson, and both very good, but C.J. Anderson never had a 1,000-yard season. Now, obviously, he was great in a playoff run. He had a couple of great wins or runs to get the Broncos a win. And then Phillip Lindsay did something that no one's ever done, and that was be an undrafted rookie to make the Pro Bowl in his first 2 seasons, or to have 1,000 yards rushing in his first 2 seasons. But Phillip's career was really short with the Broncos. What's crazy is I don't think he has to do that much.
So we're talking post-Clinton Portis?
Exactly. I think so. I think that's kind of where to draw the line.
So I'd say Willis McGahee, he's probably your best since then.
Yeah.
With no Sean, probably pretty close at his peak.
Yeah, no Sean was after. That's right.
Yeah.
I was more so thinking back to 2010, but McGahee would fit in that.
Yeah,
I mean,
2011.
That team was dominant on the ground.
Yeah.
So let's see. Willis.
Did McGahee just have 1,000-yard year, though?
He had 1199 in 2011 at 4.8 yards per carry. No Sean had 1038 in 2013 at 4.3. So yeah, I mean, Willis McGahee's probably your high water mark since then.
But only 1,000-yard season?
I probably.
I got it
Willis?
pulled up right here.
Yeah.
It was 2 years, only
Yeah.
1,000 yards
Yeah.
season. He played with Denver for 2 seasons, and he didn't even have 2,000 yards.
Does
combined.
anyone have 2 in that stretch?
It would be
With
Phil. It'd be Phil. I think that's it. And he did it twice. Again, not trying to take anything away from Phil, but he only was here for, 3 seasons?
Yeah.
Like, RJ Harvey is a second-round pick, and as Baldy said,
So
there's
RJ
so
Harvey-
many second-round picks that's the sweet spot to get a running back. The odds are probably that he will have a better career
Yeah, I
with
mean,
the
he's-
Broncos than those guys.
To answer the question, what does he have to do? Back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
Or 1,300 in 1 year.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to get 1,300 in 1 year and 1,000 yards another year.
All right.
That'd be
Like,
nice.
That's kind of crazy. Like, especially when you think about Broncos history, going back all the way to Floyd Little, and then of course the glory days with Mike Shanahan when you had Terrell Davis. But then after Terrell, you could bring anyone in, and they'd have 100 yards on the ground in a game. They'd have 1,000 yards in a season. Like, Broncos were known for just a running back factory, and it hasn't really been that way.
Did the Broncos trade being a running back factory for becoming a cornerback factory?
With
Like,
that
they didn't
trade.
realize that they were, like, changing the course of their history when they traded Clinton Portis.
Yeah, I mean, they
Not
had,
only did they
you're
trade
so
a great
right.
running back for a great corner, but they traded great running back history
Yeah.
for great cornerback history. Because it's basically like it just traded. Ever since
Yeah.
Champ, the cornerback room has been, or the cornerbacks have been fantastic.
You're spot on. Even guys that come in
good
for
trade,
1
by the
year,
way.
like DRC was here for 1 year. He resurrected
Balled
his
out.
career
Yeah.
with the Broncos. Then right after that, you bring in Aqib Talib. Then Chris Harris comes in, Bradley Roby, and I mean the rest is history with Pat Surtain coming in, and now Jahdae Barron.
Yep.
Wow, what a great point.
So CJ Anderson had 1,000 2017.
Okay.
Phil had 1,000 2018, and then again in 2019. I'm pretty sure that's only the second time in Broncos history they've had a 1,000-yard rusher in 3 consecutive seasons.
But different running backs.
It was, yeah. The other time was TD in 97, 98, 99, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause their quarterbacks weren't
23
doing anything here, so they had to run the ball.
23,000-yard seasons in the Broncos history.
20,000 yard seasons.
23, yep.
23. Yeah.
That's crazy. That's only the second time it was back-to-back-to-back, and it was CJ, Phil.
Yeah. Yeah. So apologies to CJ. He did have one 1,000-yard
Yeah.
season.
Phil underappreciated, maybe.
Oh, without a doubt. The first undrafted player ever to have 1,000 rushing yards in back-to-back seasons to start his career.
Yep.
And then the third season, I think only had 400 yards. And then before the fourth season even started, they cut him.
What's the deal with Jair Alexander?
Man, I think there's a lot of deals
Okay.
with Jair Alexander. Some issues, I don't know if you call it on or off the field, when you go out and you're not supposed to be in a coin toss, but you go out to the coin toss and you call heads or tails. You call one of them, I think it loses, and then they suspend you the next game because you weren't supposed to. Is that on the field or off the field?
That's on the field.
But kind of off the field.
Yeah, that was crazy. What was it? It was like he was in his hometown.
Yeah.
He was like, obviously I have to be out there for the coin toss. I'm in my hometown.
Yeah.
It's like, well, not your
I
decision.
love
but
that.
that is, I forgot about that. That was one of the funniest things that
It
happened
was.
last
That's
year.
what made him one of my favorite players. Yeah. But I mean, the big thing, though, is just the injuries. I mean, they gave him the big contract. In the past 2 seasons, he's only played 14 games. And so by cutting him, they now pay him $45 million for those 14 games. But there were 2 years left on the deal. And so they could have kept him for 2 more years for like $37 million total. But given that track record, they had concerns. He's been like demanding, I believe he's been demanding a new contract. He wants the extension. And so they've been trying to trade him for months, but nobody wants to trade for him because he doesn't actually play. And there's still all that time left on the contract. So I think he was just a little bit delusional about his value. And the Packers said, like, well, we can't, like, you don't even play football at this point. So, like, what's the point? So they'll cut him and he'll go sign a new deal, and we'll see.
And he's going to end up with a team that's desperate at the position. And Broncos just aren't that.
Yeah.
To me, this makes absolutely no sense. You talk to Baldy and you hear Baldy talk about how you don't want to take reps away from RJ Harvey with a running back. I don't want to take reps away from Riley Moss, and I don't want to take reps away for Jahdae Barron. If you bring a veteran in like that, who I assume you're guaranteeing a starting position to, you are 100% taking so many reps away from either of those guys. It makes absolutely no sense to me. Now, let's say Riley, I'm touching on wood here, but he goes down to an injury in training camp. Then I'd be open to it because he just takes his place. But no, it doesn't make any sense here. Henry, do you see any way in which it makes sense?
No. And again, like, he's just more valuable somewhere else. I think when Pat Surtain became the best cornerback in the NFL, he took the crown from Jair Alexander. Like, when Jair's healthy, it might just be Pat who's like capable of locking down one guy the way that he is. So whoever gets him, that's going to be a huge addition, assuming he's actually on the field. But yet, like, it just, for the Broncos who kind of have that figured out, the gamble probably isn't worth it. The chaos probably isn't worth it. Although there is a part of me that thinks that sort of chaos could be a good thing for him. Again, it's Aqib Talib who convinced me of that. And so maybe you do have to take it with a grain of salt. But when you talk about like just the dog, like that sort of thing, hey, he would be a pretty clear upgrade over what you have, which isn't speaking of Riley. It's just saying like he's incredible. But I have a feeling he's just going to wind up going to like the Ravens on a cheap deal, the Chiefs on a cheap deal, teams where there's room for him and also are contenders.
Just imagine how pissed off the Packers had to be at him for going out on the field to suspend their best player a game for doing that. Like, that's crazy.
I mean, it's just such obvious, like, defiance in the face of the head coach that you either have to suspend him or just be like, I don't have any power around here. You guys can do whatever you want.
Right. Yeah, it's very true.
Yeah.
The other guy that's available, Jermaine Pratt, linebacker for the awful Cincinnati Bengals defense last year. Is there any reason the Broncos should consider bringing him in?
They don't need a bad linebacker who's slow. Like that's just the case. I mean, I think Justin Sternad is a better linebacker than Jermaine Pratt is. Ooh. And I think I don't even think it's a hot take. Like, the guy's 250 pounds and slow. He can't cover. Like, between the tackles, even last year, he wasn't that good. Like, there's a reason Bengals fans cut him, because it's kind of back-to-back seasons where he hasn't been anything special. And obviously, nobody's sitting here thinking like, oh, you know what the Broncos need? Like, the centerpiece of the 2024 Bengals defense. Like, that's the last thing you'd want. And the fact that he doesn't play special teams either. Like, I think if he was on the roster, you'd probably cut him just because the other option is to keep him instead Drew Sanders, probably. And like, just with the upside and special teams, I just don't see how he helps you in any way other than taking your 53rd roster spot.
To reference Billy Madison, a simple no would have sufficed.
But you look though, it's like, okay, midseason you pick up.
Everyone to bury him first.
He's not good. He's not good. Like, the Bengals can't find a place for him on the defense. Like, Bengals say he makes us worse. Like, you picked up Quan Alexander midseason and he was just fine, good enough to go play somewhere else. Jermaine Pratt, kind of on that same level. Zach Cunningham, kind of on that same level. If you wind up desperate enough where you just like, we need a veteran who knows what he's doing, call me in November.
Yeah. Well, I like that answer, Henry, and I'll just stick with the simple answer. Nope. Broncos don't.
Okay. That works too.
All right, let's go out to the Toyota chat and get to some super chats. So we got one coming in from our friend Spencer Niles, who says, Week 11 will be my first home Broncos game. Any chances they're rocking the throwbacks? When do they release the uniform schedule? Great question, Spencer, and it's going to be awesome to have you in Mile High. Week 11, that is the Chiefs? I think so, because Week 12 is a bye week. Yeah, so it's the Chiefs at home. There's a chance. There's definitely a chance. That's a throwback game. The Broncos wore throwbacks against the Chiefs last year to close out the season. They could do it. This is a 225 game. My only hesitation with saying that it won't be that game is the week before they play the Raiders at home, primetime Thursday night game. I think that's a prime time to wear the throwbacks. I can almost guarantee they're going to wear the throwbacks one of those two games. And they could do both because now they're wearing the throwbacks 3 times this year.
You got to do it against the Raiders because that matchup, I think, is the best uniform matchup in the NFL.
It's true.
It just looks so good, and under the lights with the orange
on prime time too.
Yeah, but get 2 other bullets to use here.
Yeah. Might go back to back,
Yeah, because wait, what's the deal now? You can wear alternates 4 times.
and the throwbacks 3.
Oh, you can. Okay, so any individual one, only 3. Interesting.
I believe so.
What
I was
other
wondering-
alternate do we have?
The blue jerseys.
all blue.
Okay.
Very
So
memorable.
that'll be for a Sunday night game. Do they have
You would imagine.
Bengals at home Monday night? I could see them
yeah.
rocking that. They typically rock those on a Monday or a Sunday night game.
Because the other Sunday night game is a away game.
Commanders, yep, in Washington.
Yep.
Yeah. I would say if they're going to do it for the Chiefs game, only thing that would make that game better is if the Chiefs somehow get Jair Alexander, JK Dobbins, and Jermaine Pratt. Because those first 2 won't even be on the field, and Pratt's just going to make them worse. That's my final thought.
I love it. I love it. And a great final thought for today's show. This has been a fun one. Shout out to Baldy for joining us. Shout out to everyone in the Twitter chat. Make sure to hit us with a thumbs up on the way out. And again, tomorrow we'll be going live around 2 p.m. So stay tuned for your first mandatory minicamp update. Thank you and have a great week.
We all silly like the mayor.